MMA is a very serious sport, but from time to time we get some really funny moments that can't help just laughing out loud at. So, what are some of these funny moments from throughout MMA history and in the Octagon? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to cover the funniest moments in the UFC Octagon reveal. You won't want to miss this awesome list. First up we have Wanderlei Silva wants to do what to Chuck? To start off this video, we have easily one of the most infamous and funniest moments in UFC history. This one is a little crazy as well. So, when Wanderlei Silva was in the Octagon during UFC 66, he went in to challenge his opponent, Chuck Liddell, to promote what was going to be one of the biggest fights in the history of the UFC and MMA across the world. However, during this engagement, Wanderlei somehow stumbled over his own words. He was meant to say Chuck and fight, but somehow ended up stating that he wanted to F Chuck. What was wrong with him? He turned what was going to be one of the craziest bouts in UFC history and made it into a joke on the internet. Either way, this became one of the most infamous moments in the history of UFC, and rightfully so. Next up we have Khabib Starnes versus Nate Quarry. This next one happens to be one of the worst fights in the Octagon, and it all happened to take place during UFC 83. This is when Khabib Starnes was supposed to have a fight with Nate Quarry, but as we will see in a moment, that didn't work out too well. Whilst they did actually fight, you also can't really call what happened a fight in the first place. Quarry showed up to do anything and everything to his opponent, whilst Starnes ran around the Octagon the entire fight and refused to engage with his opponent. Quarry eventually got annoyed enough and started to mock his opponent, even doing the running man dance move at some point. What a crazy match, and so funny. This fight will go down in history as so stupid that it became one of the best fights in UFC for all the wrong reasons. And now we have Heath Herring gets kissed, delivers a KO. When it comes to a UFC match, knocking out your opponent during the Octagon bout is one of the best ways to secure a victory. This happens all the time, as it is one of the main strategies for many fighters in the UFC. Knocking an opponent out before the fight, however, isn't something that happens all the time. However, during this match in 2005, that is exactly what happened. Heath Herring was set to fight Yoshihiro Nikeo, but during the pre-fight stare-down, Nikeo kissed the Texas Crazy Horse on the lips, causing Herring to freak out and knock him unconscious before the bout even started. What was he thinking? Clearly it lost him the match, but he got a really funny moment out of it. People still remember this today as one of the craziest moments in UFC and in MMA history. Run, Forrest, run. Forrest Griffin was set to be one of the biggest and toughest fights that Anderson Silva had ever to beat. He was a step up from Silva's previous bouts and was set to be his hardest fight ever. However, Silva ran through the fighter with ease and even knocked him out. In the end, Forrest got up off the canvas and ran out of the Octagon when the match was over. What a coward! You wouldn't see this nowadays. Even though he beat him so badly, Silva obviously has had such an amazing career since then. And now we have some UFC news. Next up, Jan. UFC delayed rematch to avoid Sterling headlining PPV. It looks like Peter Yan has his own theories about why the UFC has opted to move his already scheduled rematch with Aljamain Sterling from UFC 272 to UFC 273 co-main event. Yan lost his bantamweight title to Sterling during UFC 259 after landing an illegal knee to a grounded Sterling late into the fight. From what we know, both Sterling and Jan were actually scheduled to fight one another during UFC 267. In the end, Sterling had to pull out due to some health issues, but Jan then went on to fight and defeat Corey Sandhagen. This got him into the interim belt during UFC 267, then the fight was rescheduled for UFC 272, but has now been pushed back even further into UFC 273. Both of them went on to social media to attack people about the delay that's happened. The pair went onto Twitter to fight before their match. Pathetic liar, desperately trying to look good and control the narrative, but it won't work. I'm vaccinated and ready to bash you anywhere, even tomorrow. UFC simply doesn't want fake champions to headline the event, Jan tweeted. Sterling responded with, LMAO, I'm only repeating what I was told by the bosses. Don't get your potato tots in a twist. I'd happily F you up tomorrow too. That can easily be arranged. What do you think about this ongoing beef between the two? Let us know down in the comment section below. It looks like for now the rematch will be taking place during UFC 273, and fans are keeping their fingers crossed that there are no potential shakeups between now and then. And now we have Dana White reveals his top 3 MMA fighters of all time. Dana White recently revealed who he thinks the top 3 MMA fighters of all time are. The ongoing debate on who the top MMA fighters of all time is always changing as more and more players show just how good they are. There have been so many amazing fighters, like John Jones, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Daniel Cormier, and Khabib Nurmagomedov, among countless others. Yet White revealed his top 3 on Tuesday and said Kamaru Usman is closing the gap to enter that list. Dana White went on to state who he thinks the top 3 names in MMA are. You'd have to go Anderson Silva, GSP, Jones. Usman is getting up there too, Dana White said on the Dave Portnoy show. The names he said shouldn't really be a surprise for anyone who follows the top end of the UFC. Silva is one of the biggest fighters in the entire world and has 10 title defenses in the middleweight class. He even went on into heavyweight and took over people. We then also had John Jones, who was the youngest champion in the history of the UFC and beat many people to gain his impressive reign as a light heavyweight, and finally Usman, who might actually surprise some. He's been very dominant throughout his time in the UFC, so it's actually fair for him to be with these other two. It's really cool to finally hear his top 3 people in MMA. Now the people thinking about the top 3 have another person who shows their knowledge. And finally we have Cyril Gane insists there's no secret to his ice-cool mentality under pressure of a huge UFC 270 clash. Cyril Gane has so many weapons to fight his opponents with, and one of them just happens to be his insane icy coolness in the heat of battle. He's made a name for himself with his quick feet, amazing movement, and agility, all for being a heavyweight. His fight IQ is also insane, even if he is inexperienced compared to many other UFC and MMA fighters right now. However, for his next fight against Francis Ngannou, he's going to need everything he can get. He spoke to Sports Mail about the upcoming fight and his composure during matches. I don't have the key or a secret to staying so composed. I started my MMA career not many years ago, and before that did not much know about the sport or the UFC. I moved really quickly to big fights. Maybe this has helped me manage all the stress around this, all the pressure. Maybe that helped me. But I don't have exactly the secret. I've just like that since when I was young. It's crazy that this match is even happening in the first place. It's going to be an insane matchup against the two in the coming days. So hopefully they both have an amazing match with one another. The UFC has so much going on and the history is really there. Fans have so many years to look through and to base their arguments upon. We know there have been so many funny moments throughout the UFC's history, but some of the more serious and cool ones tend to take over the limelight. It's nice to look back at the history of the UFC and see what really happened. Some truly funny events have happened in the past, and it really shows that you can take a break from the hard and angriness of the sport in general. It may be a sport about beating one another up, but at the end of the day, it's always great to have a laugh with each other. Hopefully you enjoyed this latest video. If you did, would you please let us know down in the comments section? It would be very helpful. Make sure to like the video, comment down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel with the notification bell rung. Thank you for watching today's video. Bye.